Hello, all. Welcome back to the weekly portion review. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, fortunately, I was spending some of the summer weeks with my family, and unfortunately, I couldn't record some of the last week's portions. However, we are continuing and we are moving forward with the portion of Shoftim, Judges. And this portion speaks about the institutions of Jewish national life, the judges, the Sanhedrin, the kingship, priesthood, prophecy, and really the responsibilities of a sovereign nation. Now, for nearly 2,000 years, much of this dimension of Torah really existed mainly in study and in memory. Right, the Jewish people preserved the Torah without actually having sovereignty, and without a functioning Sanhedrin, and without a temple in the center of our national life. Today, however, the Jewish people actually have returned to the land of Israel, and once again, we face the question that the judges themselves in this portion raise, which is, what should Jewish government look like? What is justice in a Jewish society? How does the Torah relate to law, to military power, to our national identity? And for centuries of exile, Judaism really became deeply conservative. And obviously, this is understandable. In exile, we had to create this exoskeleton, right, to protect us, right? A people that has not yet returned to itself can't safely go through this transformation. Now, one might compare this to a body, right? A living body that doesn't move will eventually weaken, right? But a dead body, if moved violently, if you start shaking it around, could actually be torn apart. And after the destruction of the temple and the loss of our Jewish sovereignty, right, the Jewish people existed in a certain sense as a national body without actual central organs functioning anymore. And then our main task just became to preserve the body. And we protected the Torah and our language and our memory and our tradition, so one day we'll be able to come home. And the miracle of 1948 was that we actually did return home. But really, the awakening brings a new danger, right? If we rush to reinvent Judaism before rediscovering our true center, we may simply import modern ideologies and just call them the Torah of the land of Israel. Right? One person identifies this renewal with feminism, another will look at progressive politics, another nationalism. I like the idea of integrating mysticism, philosophy, but and someone might want to bring in some other modern movement. But if we haven't found our center, everyone simply is just projecting their own worldview onto the Torah, and true renewal has to come from within. And this may be the reason why the institutions of this portion matter so much. Right? The Torah doesn't describe Judaism only as this private spirituality, right, or just a religion. It describes an entire civilization. We are a people of judges, of leaders, of prophets, of priesthood, right, and ultimately the temple as well. And for almost 2,000 years, we studied these institutions without being able to actually live them. Right? This was all theoretical, and because of that, we shouldn't be surprised that the transition from exile to sovereignty is actually very difficult. A body awakening after a long sleep, right? Like we said, it doesn't immediately run. It first has to feel its sensation again. Then movement begins. Then strength comes back. And maybe this is describing where Israel is today. Rav Kook, who we like to mention here, understood that Judaism really can't remain permanently frozen in the categories of exile, right? That we can't stay there, but we can't also create this genuine renewal simply by imitating modern Western culture. And the Jewish people would have to rediscover the Torah within their restored national life. And perhaps the process will eventually cause us to want the Sanhedrin again, to want the temple again, not because they belong to the past, but because we begin to understand what it is we're missing about them. And the question whether the Torah can once again ask and once again speak to a full reality of a civilization. And can it speak to us about war and government and economics and technology and medicine and morality and the relation really between the individual and the state? And this is the much meaner meaning of much deeper meaning of the Israel's return, right? The return of Torah from a life of exile and community into a life of a nation. The state of Israel is in this extraordinary stage right now of awakening. We speak Hebrew, we do defend ourselves, we do build cities, and we do debate law and morality, and we do confront, unfortunately, in the last few years, questions of war and peace and power and responsibility. But the sovereignty doesn't automatically, right, create holiness, and returning to the land doesn't mean we've already rediscovered our center. And even our leaders, our political leaders, are not yet acting like biblical leaders, right? Our challenge is to allow Israel to awaken organically, right? And we don't want to be remaining prematurely frozen. We also don't want to come into, like we said, this new modern ideology. And what we're hoping for is that one day these institutions of Torah will no longer feel like they're archaeological remains from this ancient civilization, right? But they will become possibilities for our future. And again, for 2,000 years, Judaism mastered the art of survival. Now, the Jewish people are actually being asked to learn something that's much more difficult. How to live again in the land of Israel. How to govern. How to start the process of becoming a priestly class and one who's supposed to assist in allowing all the families of the earth to be blessed through God. I wish us all much guidance from God in this endeavor, and peace to all of us. Shabbat Shalom.